Philip, talk us through what's on that agenda today.
Yeah, it's a very important meeting, this one, for the Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in the Oval Office, because when you look at which heads of state have been able to meet up with Kim Jong-un, the North Korean leader, directly, well, he is not one of them, and he will presumably want to do that at some point. Xi Jinping of China has met twice with Kim Jong-un over recent months. So has the South Korean president, Moon Jae-in. The US president is about to do so in Singapore. The country that seems to be excluded, in a sense, is Japan. And that is where Shinzo Abe comes in and where his visit to the White House comes in. He is the last world leader who will get a serious long amount of face time with the US president. There will be a few meetings at the G7 summit in Canada, of course, but this is 2 whole hours that the Japanese Prime Minister will have at the White House. He will be able to talk about his priorities, and he has already, and did in fact before leaving Japan to come here to the United States. He said he wants to talk to Donald Trump, of course, rather logically, about nuclear issues and North Korea's missile program. And specifically, what he'll want to mention here is the short-range missile program, because a fear in Japan is that the US president, one of his priorities certainly is not that short-range missile program. It's denuclearization that this Trump administration wants to work on. And that means Japan could still be exposed to short-range missiles from North Korea. We've also heard from the Japanese Prime Minister that he wants to bring up the subject of Japanese abductees who were abducted by North Korea in the 1970s and 1980s. Again, the fear from Japan is that this administration in Washington does not have that as a top priority going into that meeting in Singapore just a few days away now.
And Philip, of course, Shinzo Abe isn't the only world leader that is meeting with Trump in the lead up to that historic summit with North Korea.
Yeah, quite a few will be getting a little bit of FaceTime with the US president, not quite as much as the Japanese Prime Minister. There's a bilateral meeting with the French president. There's also one planned with Justin Trudeau of Canada. Everybody will want to get their final say, if you will, give that final bit of advice to Donald Trump before he goes into that meeting in Singapore on the 12th of June. There hasn't been all that communication, that much good communication, certainly, with the United States allies over recent days. And maybe North Korea hasn't exactly been the priority of many of the United States allies. There are, of course, those trade tariffs that have made the French president and the Canadian Prime Minister particularly angry, and that might be their priority at the G7 summit in Canada. What the US president here is facing is quite a few angry allies. And in an article just published by the Washington Post, in fact, quite a few White House officials mention that the US president sees this G7 summit, such an important summit with other world leaders and allies, as a bit of a distraction, in fact, going into that meeting with Kim Jong-un in North Korea. That appears to be Donald Trump's priority. He might be surprised in Canada with how much other world leaders will want to talk about subjects that have made their citizens very angry at home. Trade tariffs on one side. The French president also will get his first face-to-face meeting with the US president after he exited the Iran nuclear deal. These are all very, very thorny issues at a time when the US president, it appears, wants to concentrate on one thing and one thing only, and that is that summit on the 12th of June in Singapore with Kim Jong-un.